Hi, I'm Stan DeFreitas, Mr. Greenthumb. Today we're going to talk about the #1 vegetable in the country, and that is the tomato. Tomatoes, of course, have been around for a good long time, and a lot of people like them in salads and many different ways. Now, this variety is a Sweet 100, and it's a smaller tomato. It's only going to give you about an ounce-sized fruit, so that's small, but it'll give you, I've had one of these plants give me up to almost 1,000 tomatoes. They'll give you a gracious plenty. So it's a good one to have. Some of the larger fruited tomatoes have problems when the temperature gets above the mid-80s. The smaller varieties like this don't. They'll keep producing almost all summer long. So if it's a little bit on the cool side, they produce. If it's a little bit on the hot side, they produce. Now, you simply can take this little 4-pack out, and you can see this has a pretty good root system to it. It's already kind of coming apart. We can see it's got little veination of the roots going through, and that's a good sign. You want to look for a white, healthy root system. If it's kind of yellowed or off-colored, then you may wish to try to find them. And sometimes I've been known to actually take a plant out of its little 4-pack at the nursery to see how does that root structure look. Now we're going to take this one and we're going to pot it up into some good soil. I've actually added some black cow manure to the soil, and I added it has some other potting soil mixed with it. I went with about a 50-50 mix, and I find that's a good one. Make sure you've got a lot of organic matter. Tomatoes like a lot of organic matter. Make sure it has good drainage. This one container does. It's kind of a small container, and I wouldn't probably use it for a large tomato, but for a smaller one like the Sweet 100, it should do very well. Tomatoes normally take about 65 days from the time that they start to the time that you're harvesting some of the fruit. Tomatoes are in the Solanaceae family, and that means they like full sun. Now simply we're going to just move like a little spot in here with our fingers and move the soil back. I'm gently going to pull this root system kind of apart a little bit because we want it to kind of adapt and move into the existing soil. We don't want it to stay in a spiral pattern. We're going to take it, I'm going to plant it about the same depth it was in the container. If I wanted to, I could actually plant it somewhat deeper. And often you'll find tomatoes in the nursery that are kind of long and leggy. So if you want to put it down a couple of inches, it won't hurt it. It'll develop roots along the whole way. But we're going to place this down into the soil. And I'm going to kind of cover it up and plant it kind of in the center of the area. We'll give it a little bit of water. Now, I've used some of the flower and vegetable before. Dynamite makes a grand product that does a great job. Or for tomatoes, I'll give you the secret that I think really works well, and that is this Dynamite Mater Magic. And it's really was designed kind of for tomatoes. And I normally will go ahead and put a couple of capfuls of the material around the soil. And for a bigger area, I normally go with maybe as many as 3 or 5 capsules of soil around it. Sometimes I'll even do it way before I plant, just kind of get it into the soil so it works into the soil and the tomato can really start off with it. But if not, you can go ahead and take this, and I'm going to put it around there now. You can see we're just going to sprinkle it around the edge, and we're going to give it another couple. Why? Because it's all organic. And that means that you're not going to have a burn problem like you might with some of the chemical fertilizers. Some of the chemical fertilizers, if you're not careful, I know they're easy to mix into a watering can, but you sometimes will get into a burn problem. And we don't want that. We just want great, luscious tomatoes that are going to do really well for us. In fact, I use this also, this Mater Magic, on my peppers. And I find it does a great job because peppers are kind of heavy feeders. So if you give it a good food, a good nutrition, you're going to have kind of good results. And of course, I always like to water in any little planting that I start because it's going to give me the results we're looking for. Nice and straight, good stem, a little bit deeper than it was in the container. I'll make sure this tomato gets about 6 hours of bright sun a day, and also make sure you plant it in an area where you can get to it on a pretty regular basis. And if you put it out too far from the house and you don't see it, it could get dry, and if it dries, it could die. So you need to make sure it gets a good deal of moisture, but it also has good drainage. Make sure it gets fertilized well, and you should get hundreds of tomatoes off of this one little plant, and it'll do a great job for you. Now, if you like our segments, we really want you to subscribe. We can't say that enough. If you subscribe to our show, well, it helps us, and it helps us to keep bringing you some of these great shows that help give you those tips that make you that green thumber of the neighborhood. So subscribe.